out of having to pay the tax, right?
That's correct. The civil and criminal statute of limitations have expired for that tax year.
He could pay that today, right? Voluntarily.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, yes.
If he chose to voluntarily, yes, he could.
And perhaps Mr. President might want to wander down the hall at the White House and turn to his son and say, Hunter Biden, why don't you pay your taxes for 2014? Because I got two men who just testified there's $125,000 owed and he ought to cut the check.
IRS whistleblowers giving testimony on the criminal investigation into Hunter Biden's tax evasion, claiming political interference and a pattern of preferential treatment for him, that it stopped investigators from following evidence that could have led to President Joe Biden. The New York Post summing up the primary message they got from supervisors: don't question the Bidens. Ohio Congressman Mike Turner is a member of the Oversight Committee, a chairman of the Intelligence Committee. Now that this has settled in, where do you go from here after these whistleblowers came forward yesterday? One we hadn't seen before.
Right. Well, these whistleblowers, Mr. Shapley and Mr. Ziegler, did an incredible job yesterday. Their credibility was extraordinary. Also, you could definitely see that they had taken the step to do what they believe was right, to tell the story about how their investigation had been thwarted and how the Department of Justice had allowed the statute of limitations for very serious criminal acts by Hunter Biden expire so he could not be pursued. But what they also said, which was very interesting, is that there are taxes owed that Hunter Biden did not pay, and because that statute of limitation was allowed to expire, they're still out there. He could still pay those taxes today. So that's what we were dealing with yesterday is you know, Hunter Biden has money in his pocket. The Biden family has money in their pockets from Hunter not having paid his taxes. He should pay his taxes.
Well, Joseph Ziegler was the surprise witness. We didn't know his name. We did not know his identity. And he appeared to be rather unimpeachable, I guess you could use. He's from Ohio. He made the statement that he's paying his own way to travel to Washington, D.C. and back home again as a whistleblower here. This is a segment of his testimony yesterday when he talked about a special counsel that's required.
It appeared to me, based on what I experienced, that the U.S. attorney in Delaware in our investigation was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials as well as other U.S. attorneys. I still think that a special counsel is necessary for this investigation.
So he said it emphatically, too. Do you think that's ever going to happen? Doesn't appear likely.
Well, yeah, certainly not under the Biden administration, and certainly not under the current DOJ. I mean, they really are treating Bidens completely different than every other American. The other thing that was also impeachable about these witnesses is they testified they've had actual access to Hunter Biden's financial records and bank records and these transactions. When they were testifying, they weren't testifying about things that they heard or they think someone might investigate or should investigate. They have done the investigation. They had the facts, they had the information and the transactions, and they were also relating to us conversations that they themselves had with the Department of Justice attorneys, U.S. attorneys. They weren't talking about things that they heard second or third hand. This is hard evidence of interference by the Department of Justice on behalf of the Bidens.
Did you get a sense that the Democrats on the committee, I mean, imagine that they would prefer not to have to talk about this, but that they are maybe concerned that there was impropriety here?
I think the evidence is so clear that there are actual significant crimes and taxes that aren't paid that not one Democrat was willing to even engage these whistleblowers on the substance that they were there to testify. Most of the people on the other side, the Democrats in the committee, spent their time talking about Donald Trump, which this has nothing to do with Donald Trump. This is totally Hunter Biden, his financial transactions, crimes, fraud, and taxes that are should be being paid.
I want to listen to one more soundbite from yesterday. This is a Democratic congressman from Maryland, Kwesi Mfume. And he makes it quite clear that he thinks the attacks on aspects of government are doing the American people no good. I'll ask you about that in a moment here. Watch.
I don't like these attacks on the Department of Justice, the FBI, the IRS, as if they are somehow anti-U.S. agencies. We are doing this all over again for the Hunter Biden show to someone who has pleaded guilty and has taken responsibility for not filing taxes for 2 years.
You can take exception to some of the comments he's making there, but the overall comment goes to how the American people view the work of major agencies and American government. And Robert Kennedy's making that same point as we speak. Is that being heard in Washington, D.C. among your colleagues?
Well, you know, these aren't criticisms of the Department of Justice and the IRS and you know, certainly the Biden family. These are actual facts. That's what's so unimpeachable about what occurred yesterday. They're not making allegations or things that they presume or think are happening. They actually told what is happening, that there were real evidence of crimes for 2014 and 2015, that the Department of Justice allowed the statute of limitations to expire so there would not be criminal prosecution on those, and at the same time, the tax liabilities then were never satisfied and never paid, again, statute of limitations having passed.
Congressman Mike Turner, we appreciate you coming. I know that you have votes to get to. We will thank you for your time.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.